Nosferatu, an enigma wrapped in shadows, a being whose mere presence stirs something deep within us. He moves silently through the night, a perpetual outsider in a world that can neither embrace nor understand him. His elongated fingers reach out, not just to take, but as if yearning for something that lies forever out of reach. What is it about Nosferatu that fascinates us so profoundly? Perhaps it is the eerie stillness of his existence that draws us in, a stillness that seems to echo the silence of the universe itself. Or perhaps it is the unsettling sense of familiarity in his every gesture, a reflection of our own inner struggles. Nosferatu transcends the role of a simple vampire from an old tale. He is a symbol, a mirror reflecting humanity's deepest existential questions. In his solitude, his defiance of natural laws, and his quiet desperation, we see our own condition laid bare. Philosophy, the ancient discipline of probing the nature of life, existence, and the cosmos, often begins with similar questions. Who are we? Why do we exist? What lies beyond what we perceive? Nosferatu, in his enigmatic form, becomes a silent companion on our journey to seek these answers, a figure whose darkness sheds light on the mysteries of our own existence. Existentialism, articulated by thinkers like Jean-Paul Sartre and Martin Heidegger, begins with a profound realization: humanity's loneliness and abandonment in an indifferent universe. Nosferatu embodies this abandonment. He exists in a liminal space, not truly alive, yet not dead, suspended between states. His restless wandering mirrors Sartre's assertion that man is condemned to be free. Freedom, unbound from external structures, forces us to create our own meaning. Yet, as Nosferatu demonstrates, this freedom is also a heavy burden, one that weighs on our existence like an eternal shadow. In Nosferatu's solitude, there is an eerie reflection of our own lives. We too, at times, feel adrift in the vastness of existence, seeking connections that might anchor us. But what does this solitude teach us? Perhaps it is not merely a burden, but a doorway to greater understanding. As Heidegger suggested, by confronting our aloneness and acknowledging the void, we might arrive at a deeper grasp of our own being. Nosferatu, it seems, carries the weight of this insight in his endless, solitary existence, becoming a metaphor for the human condition itself. Nosferatu is defined by an unquenchable thirst, a ceaseless craving for blood. But this hunger is more than a physical necessity. It symbolizes an endless yearning, a desire that drives all of us forward, even as it remains perpetually unsatisfied. Jacques Lacan, a prominent psychoanalyst of the 20th century, described desire as the central force in human life. He argued that desire is not the pursuit of what we truly need, but of an ideal that might complete us. Yet this ideal, like a mirage in the desert, always remains just out of reach. Nosferatu's eternal thirst exemplifies this cycle, a never-ending pursuit of something unattainable, a hunger that can never be sated. This idea of desire echoes even in ancient philosophy. Plato's concept of eros, as explored in the Symposium, describes the soul's longing for what it lacks. Eros is not mere physical passion, but a yearning for something higher, something divine. Yet, as Plato acknowledged, this longing is inherently paradoxical. It is both the driving force of life and a source of perpetual incompletion. Nosferatu's hunger reminds us that life itself is a constant striving, a dance with desires that both propel us forward and evade our grasp. In his restless search for sustenance, we see a reflection of our own endless quest for meaning, connection, and fulfillment. Nosferatu dwells in shadow, yet his essence is not purely darkness. Instead, he seems to inhabit the spaces between life and death, between light and dark. He is a creature of liminality, a figure who blurs the boundaries that define our understanding of the world. This duality echoes the philosophical tradition of dualism explored by figures like Plato and René Descartes. Dualism sees the world as a tension between opposites, body and mind, matter and idea, good and evil. But Nosferatu challenges such neat divisions. Is he truly evil, or merely a product of his nature and circumstances? Hannah Arendt, a 20th century philosopher, introduced the idea of the banality of evil. She suggested that evil often arises not from grand malevolence, but from thoughtlessness, a failure to reflect, to take responsibility, to act with care. Nosferatu, though monstrous in appearance and action, does not radiate malice. Instead, his existence invites us to question the very nature of evil. Is he a villain, or is he simply a being trapped by the conditions of his own existence? In confronting Nosferatu's shadow, we are invited to confront our own. His presence reminds us that the line between light and dark, good and evil, is often blurred, and that understanding this ambiguity is essential to understanding ourselves. Nosferatu is immortal, yet his immortality carries no blessing. It is a curse. While mortals age, die, and become part of nature's cycle, Nosferatu remains trapped, unchanging, timeless, isolated. Augustine of Hippo, an early philosopher, described time as a threefold phenomenon: past, present, and future. For humanity, time flows, structuring our lives and grounding us in reality. But for Nosferatu, time is frozen. He exists outside the river of life, caught in an endless present, unable to change or grow. Henri Bergson, a French philosopher, emphasized the vitality of time. For Bergson, time is not a rigid sequence of moments, but a flowing, living force intertwined with consciousness. Nosferatu's immortality strips him of this vitality. His existence is static, devoid of change or purpose. This state of stasis becomes a haunting reflection for us. While we often long for more time, Nosferatu reminds us that it is life's finitude that gives it depth and meaning. To live fully, we must embrace the transience of our existence, recognizing that our fleeting moments are what make life precious. Sigmund Freud described the uncanny as the sensation that arises when the familiar suddenly becomes strange. Nosferatu embodies the uncanny. His appearance resembles a human, yet he is not one. His movements, his gaze, his very presence unsettle us because they evoke something we cannot fully articulate. Freud explained that the uncanny confronts us with repressed parts of ourselves, thoughts, fears, or desires we have pushed into the shadows. Nosferatu becomes a mirror, forcing us to face these hidden aspects of our psyche. Friedrich Nietzsche also saw the importance of confronting our darkness. He urged us to integrate the shadow, not to suppress it, but to accept it as part of our strength. Nosferatu invites us to reflect on our own hidden aspects, the parts of ourselves we may wish to forget. By acknowledging them, we may find a path to wholeness. Why are we drawn to Nosferatu? His world is bleak, his form grotesque, yet there is an undeniable beauty in the darkness he inhabits. His haunting presence holds a strange allure, one that captivates and unsettles us in equal measure. Immanuel Kant, in his philosophy of aesthetics, spoke of the sublime, a feeling of awe that arises when we encounter something beyond our comprehension. Nosferatu, with his alien presence and mysterious silence, evokes the sublime, captivating us with his otherness. Arthur Schopenhauer saw art as a refuge from the suffering of life. Nosferatu himself becomes a kind of art, a symbol that lifts us out of the mundane and into the realm of the profound. He reminds us that in darkness there is often a mysterious beauty, a beauty that challenges us to look deeper, to see beyond the surface of things. Nosferatu is more than a monster. He is a silent companion on our own philosophical journey. In his darkness, we see our own shadows. His hunger reminds us that life is a perpetual striving, a balance between light and dark. His immortality reflects our longing for time, even as it warns us of its consequences. Nosferatu's story invites us to ponder our existence, to confront the questions we often leave unasked. What does it mean to live, to desire, to exist between light and shadow? In the end, Nosferatu leaves us with a simple yet profound insight. To embrace life, with all its contradictions, is perhaps the greatest wisdom of all. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more philosophy of pop culture.